There's Facebook groups, there's TikTok groups, Instagram groups. There's so many places that you can go to get support of people that are going through what you're going through.
So true. I think those groups and surrounding yourself with the community of people who understand what you're saying, what you're feeling, and vice versa. You can be that shoulder or that ear, for other people, I think is again one of the most important things. Hi friends, welcome to the Sobriety Diaries, a video podcast where we share powerful stories of recovery that inspire hope and offer support to those affected by addiction. I'm your host, Nate Kelly, creator of the show and recovering alcoholic 8.5 years from my last drink. I'm also a lover of human connection. I started the show during the pandemic when I lost that connection, and it has grown beyond my wildest dreams. We just surpassed 1 million downloads. So thank you so much for that support, and let's open today's diary. My friend Al Richards agreed to come back. We had some technical difficulties, but I think his story is so important to share. So we're here again. Al Richards, welcome to the Sobriety Diaries. Again, how are you, my friend?
I am doing well, Nate. Thank you. And thank you so much for feeling like this story is important to be heard and to offer me to come back. So I really do appreciate you.
Yes, I think there are uh, commonalities to certain parts of your story that, a lot of us face in recovery, and, the things that you're doing now with the summit and the podcast. I really wanted to share them. So let's dive into things. I like to hear a bit about your personal story, as you know, to kind of set the scene for how you are giving back now to the recovery community. So let's go back maybe to what prompted you to seek a path to recovery, or certain parts of your story of addiction that are worth telling to give some
Okay.
hope to our listeners.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, it all began 15 years ago, really, when this new journey actually started. Just so the listeners know where my background came from, I did about an 8 year stint with cocaine and alcohol, and it was only on the weekends, which a lot of people have called BS on it. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. It was every Friday and Saturday night, and I had done cocaine as a teenager and working construction, but it was intermediate. It was here, it was there, it was a party thing. I could go a long time without it, and then I'd come back and maybe have it. And when this manufacturing company that I was working for, I was in Kentucky helping a plant get up and going, and then when I came back to Salt Lake, the responsibilities really got piled on me. And it got to where I had 43 employees underneath me, and I had projects coming out of pretty much every orifice of my body, and the stress was pretty high. And we went to a party. My wife and I went to a party, and this guy come up and he said, "Hey, do you party?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm partying. I'm here at your party." And he's like, "No, do you party?" And he's doing this, and I'm like, "Oh, I know what that means." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's been so long." And we ended up going to the back room, and I did some lines. And for the first time, Nate, I completely forgot about work. Completely forgot about work. I was actually able to have a really good time at that party. And a couple of weeks went by or so, and anyway, I started thinking about it. I'm like, gosh, I want to forget about work again. So I called this guy up that I met, and I said, "Hey, could you hook me up with the guy that hooks you up?" And he goes, "Well, I'm the guy." I'm like, "Oh crap, I did not know that." So that's
Straight to
what
the
started
source.
this whole. I know, right? That's what, and that's a smart drug dealer, right? Get
Yeah.
somebody to do it a little bit, and then they come back to you, and now pretty soon
Yes.
they're buying from you, and it's crazy. We became really good friends. It was nothing crazy like what you see on TV or anything like that, but it just ended up becoming an 8 year thing, and then in 2009, July of 2009, I walk into work. I get about halfway through my work day, and my manager calls me in the office, and he says, "Hey, you've been pulled for a UA." I went, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're up for a drug test." And he goes, "You need to go over security, and I'm going to take you over. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, wait, no, no, this is not possible. I haven't been drug tested in 15 years. There's no
Wow.
way. So I came up with an excuse that I was busy, which I was really busy, and the plant manager was on my butt about a project. Anyway, long story short, the next day I finally went and got UA'd, and I was doing everything I could the night before, drinking pickle juice and prune juice and grape juice and anything I could possibly think of to clear my system out. A week went by after my UA, I didn't hear anything. Week and a half goes by, didn't hear anything. And I thought, you know what? I flip and beat it. It came back positive, and I ended up losing my job. I lost my job a month and a half after I got married to my new wife. The 3 years we dated, she had no clue I was snorting cocaine. She knew I was drinking because we drank together, but I hid my cocaine use. I mean, she had no clue. No
Wow.
one knew. And I ended up losing my job. After I lost the job, about a year later, we lost our house. And during that time is when she is now my ex wife. Unfortunately, we were together 18 years, but she started falling into alcoholism. So while I started working on myself, trying to figure out who Al Richards wanted to be as a human being, realizing I was not the person that I thought I was, I was going this direction and she was going that direction.
Yeah.
And that's what got me really started in the whole recovery community.
Hey, recovery warriors. I wanted to introduce a new way to connect with you, our amazing community, and the reason I turn on the microphone week after week and create episodes that inspire hope for those affected by addiction. We created a voicemail line for your recovery questions, issues you may be having with your journey, mental health concerns, or sobriety tips and tricks for others. Any and all of the above. Hey, you could even just call to say hi. We will be incorporating these into some upcoming episodes, and this is a way for you to contribute hope to our listeners. I absolutely love hearing from you guys, so please utilize this feature to add your voice to our show. Talk soon. Call 707 385 1595 to leave us your message today. That's 707 385 1595, or check today's show notes for a direct link. When this happened at work and these things started to be uncovered, I would imagine that, it was, what contributed to some of her use, or was it just maybe the timing of both of your sort of stages of your life? It had to have been a difficult time.
Yeah, it was very difficult. She finally found a guy that had a stable job and somebody. I mean, I treated her like a queen, and I'm not saying that just to make myself look good, because I had had 3 other marriages before that. I treated this woman like a queen. I mean, she was my everything. I was literally madly in love with this gal, and still being dishonest on my end, not letting her know, because she knew I did it once because I told her, and she said, "You promised me never to do it again." And I promised her, but in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, that's definitely that promise. I'm not keeping that one because I
Yeah.
enjoy this stuff way too much." So I let her down. I let her down hard, and it was, man, it broke my heart that I did that to her. Especially because of the way she felt about me. And she had had a lot of things that had happened to her in her past, and I think this was just the tipping point, for her to start going. And I go back and I connect the dots backwards, Nate, and I really think it was just all God's timing. It
Right.
really was. I think really all of us, her and I both had to go through this whole transition to get us to where we're at today. And it breaks my heart because unfortunately she is now homeless. She cannot get off the alcohol. And a week ago, literally a week ago, um, I finally had to cut the cord and just say I can't do this anymore. I've done everything I can to support you, and and I love you, I still care about you, but I'm starting to get pulled down that dark hole again, and I'm not willing to go there.
Yeah. You do have to set and uphold boundaries, right? I think it's one of the most important things in recovery, especially if you are dealing with folks who are still in active use. It can seem harsh or sad at times, but, you know, uh, looking back or hearing from so many who are on the other side of that, it's one of the most important things.
Absolutely, and it's tough. Mine's my spouse, and there's a lot of people out there that have to do it with their children, and I can't imagine playing in that sandbox because that's a
Yeah.
whole different level. But it's still hard. It's still very difficult when we got divorced because of it, and I'm not in love with her anymore like I used to be. A lot of that separated years ago, but I still love the woman. We spent 18 years together, and I still care about her as a human being, and I just want the best for her. And yeah, and to be able to have a boundary and keep it is so difficult because we don't want anything bad to happen to them, but we have to realize too, this is the journey they're choosing. And there's nothing we can do to grab the steering wheel and lead
Yeah.
them in the direction they're supposed to go.
Very true. Very true. Al, you said something I want to kind of circle back to because I think it's important to discuss is this idea of not having an outlet for stress, whether it's work, whether it's family and relationships, and not turning to, what we've known in the past, substances. How in your recovery now have you discovered new outlets for stress, or can you offer some hope or suggestions to our listeners of different ways for an outlet for stress or to handle that?
Yeah, there's at that time I didn't realize there was other groups out there like Al-Anon, and Al-Anon's there for family members to help people learn a little bit more about addiction, and it wasn't a fit for me. It definitely wasn't. And to to go through the stress that I went through with her addiction, again, it took me down a really dark hole to where I was on my way home one day to get my gun and go up in the mountains and commit suicide just because I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I started really thinking about all the years I really took care of myself, physical fit, used to bodybuild, used to compete. And that's really what I went back to. I found a healthy way and just started going back to some old patterns. You know, um, I had a bad anger issue back in my early teenage years up to my mid 20s. Ended up going to therapy for 6 months to learn how to control it. And I started using other resources to help me when I'd start seeing those blinders come in, and cleaning works for me. I mean, I start getting upset. I'll start vacuuming, I'll start sweeping, I'll start
Yeah,
dusting, I'll just start going crazy
I
and
love
turn
that.
on some music to start getting my beat, turn on some really good positive music, nothing sad, something that's really upbeat to get my mind off of it. And now that I've been on this journey for 15 years, I have been able to bring in so many new resources. I've brought meditation into my life, I've brought yoga into my life, I've surrounded myself with like-minded people who are all just full of positivity, and and I have become so much more spiritual. And to me, right there, my gosh, that's really been my savior out of all of it. Growing up LDS, I'm not active LDS. There are things I like, there are things I don't like. So I became more spiritual. And to be able to have a higher power who I call God for me has just really been such a lifesaver for me because once I threw in the towel and said, okay, God, I'm done screwing up my life. Every time I take the steering wheel, I'm either in the ditch or hitting the wall. So you take
Mhm.
over, I'll just follow. And it's really helped me along this whole journey. And He's placed the right people in my life. And now, compared to 15 years ago or even 10 years ago, there's so many other places you can go online. There's Facebook groups, there's TikTok groups. Instagram groups. There's so many places that you can go to get support of people that are going through what you're going through.
So true. I think those groups and surrounding yourself with the community of people who understand what you're saying, what you're feeling, and vice versa. You can be that shoulder or that ear, for other people. I think is again one of the most important things. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Speaking of, meeting people and people that come into our lives for a reason. Um, I know that you have a special relationship with a young woman named Mallory, and you guys are, creating other places for people to meet and share experience, strength, and hope. So I would love if you could share how you and Mallory met and some of the projects that you guys have worked on together.
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Nate. I really do appreciate it. So, Mallory lives in St. George, Utah, which is about 350 miles south of Salt Lake City. And I've done a lot of networking throughout my years, and apparently she was doing some network in St. George, and she said she was looking for someone up in Salt Lake that was in the recovery community. And literally, I had just started getting into the recovery community. I just starting to get my name out there, my podcast, my logo. Somebody on this Facebook page that's a networking site gave her my name. And she found me and reached out to me, and we scheduled a call. We ended up being on a telephone call for damn near 2 hours. And she's a lovely young lady. She's about the same age as my daughters. And she told me her story, and I invited her to come up to Salt Lake and be a guest on my show. And she did. We instantly became really, really good friends. And a couple of months after the show, she called me up and she goes, I want to run something past you, this idea that's been running around in my head. And just be honest with me. I want to know if it's stupid or if it's a good idea. And I said, okay, shoot. She goes, I've been thinking about doing an event that's all based around recovery and suicide and domestic violence. And she's throwing out all these things. And after she was done, I was silent. And then I said, you have got to be kidding me, Mal. And she goes, so it is stupid. And see, I get emotional even thinking about it. And I said, no, it's not stupid. I said, you got to be kidding me, because I have been thinking the exact same thing. And of course, she said the same thing I did. You've got to be kidding me. And we just started talking about it. And in August of 2022, we held our very first summit. We called it the Healing Utah Success Summit. And we did it in St. George at the Dixie Convention Center. We had about 75 people attend, dwindled down to about 20 by the end of the event. We had 3 speakers, and we got a lot of great reviews from it. And people were going, are you going to do one in Salt Lake? Are you going to do one in Salt Lake? So in April of 2023, we did our second one. We had about 100 people, no, 130 people show up at that one. Same type of response. People are like, how can I be a part of this? Oh my gosh, I want to speak. I want to do a speaker, and they're just going on in the excitement. So we ended up holding another one in October of 2023. We had a very short time to put that together, but we still brought in close to 100 people. And now we are planning our 4th one for October 5th at the same location, the Miller Free Enterprise Building in Sandy, Utah. We've got a total of 5 speakers, and every speaker will touch on a base, whether it's addiction, suicide, domestic violence, proper nutrition. I will be speaking about the Cartman Triangle, about stop living your life as a victim.
Yeah.
And this thing is just growing. We've had some people reach out to us who have heard about the event, and we have just been blessed and amazed, because these people are coming in with investors to watch this event. They believe that we need to take this nationwide, which was one of Mallory and I's biggest dreams, was to go all over the United States, all over the country, and hold this event. And our good friends that you know as well, Dave and Susan Kenny, or Suze as she likes to be called now.
Yes.
They have been so impressed with this. They actually came in as a sponsor and they're driving all the way down from Canada to kick our event off.
Amazing. Hey, podcasters, are you ready to turn up the volume on your podcast? Let's talk about taking your show from just okay to unforgettable. I'm Nate Kelly, creator and host of the Sobriety Diaries and founder of Pod Studio, a full service podcast production studio. And we're looking for a select few hosts who are ready to level up your podcast and scale your brand. Whether you're a seasoned host or just getting started, our team specializes in production and editing, as well as marketing that gets your message heard and creates lasting partnerships that, you guessed it, can monetize your show. Audio is king. So we'll start by making sure your episodes sound crisp, your message is crystal clear, and your audience growing with every episode. We offer different packages and service levels to fit any budget and guarantee our results. Head over to podcastnate.com/services or click the link in today's show notes for more information, and we'll see you on the charts. People in the recovery community are so free to support one another and get behind a cause and contribute, in any way they can. It's just one of the most supportive, beautiful communities to be a part of. We're just so blessed, I think.
Yes. And Salt Lake is very blessed. You know, the recovery community here, they are very supportive of one another. It is so cool to see and to be invited to a lot of the events that they put on. They are some of the most spiritual, inspirational, amazing people you will ever, ever be in front of. And the reason why is because they have come from the darkest of dark and they have clawed and scratched and did everything they could to get their life back on track. And all they want to do is give as much love and connection and help to every individual that reaches a hand out. And it is one of the most amazing things to be a part of as well as to see.
Well, I think it's worth noting too, now that you have taken your experience and this sort of being introduced into the community and embracing that. Now you have taken it to the International Crisis and Recovery Coaching certification. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd like to
No,
talk
yeah,
about
correct.
that process and what that means now to offer potential clients or folks that you would work with.
You know, again, God works in mysterious ways, and this is something that fell in my lap again, Nate. And I believe it's just because this is the journey that He's put me on. You know, He's putting the chess pieces in the right place, and to be able to have been certified this past April as an international certified crisis and recovery coach has been amazing. I'm only working with one client right now, and I'm taking very slow baby steps. At first, I wanted to, you know, be that funny car right off the line when the light turns green and go 2,000 miles an hour down the
Yeah.
track, which they're about 300 and something miles down the track, and just go after it. And I had to pull the reins back and just go, okay, wait a minute, let's just take my time, let's do some baby steps. But I tell you what, even just with this very first client that I'm working with, man, the rewards that come out of it is so amazing. And I'm not trying to say selfish wise as the rewards is to see their light bulbs turn on about who they are as an individual that they've kept stuffed away for so long, and then also the rewards to just how it feels for us as coaches to see that light come on. And at the same time, while I'm coaching her, she's literally coaching me. as well. So I get the opportunity to grow from it. And I've been asked to be coached for the past couple years, and I said I wasn't interested. Don't want anything to do with it. I just want to public speak, do my podcast, and hopefully get to where I can make a living from it. That's all I want to do. And again, the timing was just right when Emergo Academy asked if I'd want to take their training program. What I loved about theirs was the brain first approach. They don't
Yes.
talk addiction, and that's what sold me on it. And that's where I'm at. And now you will not believe this. I've met a beautiful, beautiful lady who we've become really good friends. Her name's Jessica Endicott, and she's all about proper brain nutrition and proper health. She lost her husband in 2013 to a heroin overdose, so she knows what it's like. And her and I have been molding our minds together, and we're talking opening up a sober living that's different than any sober living in the Salt Lake Valley. And we're talking about, she's got a name for a cafe to open that's all based off of healthy brain food. And I mean, it's crazy where all this is taken off to.
The sky is the limit. It's I hear a lot of people say recovery is like a superpower, and it does feel like, not only do we get back those parts of ourselves that we lost in addiction, but new talents and new interests, at least for me, seem to pop up all the time. And now with a clear head and a strong body, I think, we can take advantage of so many more of these ideas and these opportunities. And it sounds like you're right there on that path.
Yeah, most definitely. If you would ask me, Nate, 4 years ago if I'd be doing what I'm doing right now, I'd tell you you'd have your head up your backside because there's been no way. And now I'm just amazed of where I'm at and where life is taking us. So many of us and the people that have came into my life, it's just amazing. I mean, I got to meet you through it as well, right? Through Dave and Sue's, and I've got to meet so many other amazing individuals that I would have never had that opportunity to meet if it wasn't for what we're doing.
Well, we talked a little about mental health and some suicide prevention. You have a therapy is cool t-shirt on. I think that's awesome. I have supplemented my 12-step work and my recovery with therapy for the majority of my sobriety. For you, do they go hand in hand? Do you sort of separate one from the other? Or I guess what experience can you offer with talk therapy or other modalities of therapy and recovery?
We understand a certain part of it that a lot of other individuals don't. And when you're in that realm or that abyss of darkness and hell that surrounds your life, you learn a lot of things. And I think it's like my friend Jessica said when she has a podcast as well called the Wellness Crusaders. And I watched her do a talk. She did a talk with me up in Park City, and she says, living what I went through makes me an expert. And no one can take that away
So
from me.
true.
And I think
Perfectly
that's
said.
where it helps us as individuals to help others who are just starting that journey. And I hope I'm answering your question. It's just the best way for me to,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that pops up in my head.
Yeah. I think that's great. That's that she should put that on a t-shirt or a quote. That's
Yeah,
perfectly
right?
said.
Yeah.
Well, Al, tell us about your podcast. I know you're putting out new episodes. What's your podcasting experience been like? I guess as it relates to your recovery, and where can we find the show?
Gosh, the podcast has been going over 3 years now. Just this past March, we went over 3 years. 200, matter of fact, the 290th episode comes out tomorrow. I have interviewed people from the UK, Canada, all over the United States. It's just been an amazing journey. People who are professionals in trauma, therapy, mental health, all kinds of different things, sound bathing, breath work. Built a lot of wonderful relationships, made a lot of new friends. I like to say now I've got friends all around the world, which is really cool. Some we've
Yes.
never met in person, but like ourselves, we've not met in person, but I consider you as a friend, and it's nice to have it. You know, the podcast has really helped me grow as a person. I had one of my guests one time ask me a question and say, "So, can I ask if you've ever gone through therapy with everything that you've gone through?" And I thought about it and I was just about ready to say no. And then I says, no, wait a minute. Yeah, I go to therapy every week. And they're like, oh, really? And before I used to do my shows on Thursday, I do them on Fridays now. And I said, yeah, I go to a studio and have therapy every Thursday. And they're like, a studio? And I said, yeah, I get to sit down with some of the most amazing people and interview them, and I get to learn a lot from them. And by that being said, they're my therapists. They're the ones that are helping me grow. So
It's so true.
it's been an amazing journey, and you can find it. I used to be on all the major platforms when I lost the studio in March of last year. I'm working on a lot of different things. But right now, you can find it on YouTube and Facebook under Al Richards or The Other Side of Addiction.
Awesome. I love that. I'll link the podcast in today's show notes as well. Al, I like to leave our listeners with a bit of hope. I think you've shared a lot of hope so far, but if you could kind of condense it down to a bite-sized piece for folks who may still be struggling, what could you offer them today?
Whatever you're going through, whatever it may be, whether it's addiction or not addiction or a crisis or some kind of trauma, no, you're not the only one. So many of us get caught up that we think we're the only ones that are going through the suffering. Out of 7 to 8 billion people on this earth, believe me, there's thousands of other people going through the same type of thing. Don't give up. Look for people who are going through the same type of thing that you are, because they'll be one of the best resources for you. You know, in the addiction world, they say the opposite of addiction is connection. And I would like to add, being that spiritual person, that very first connection, though, that you need to add in your life is that guy upstairs. Whether you believe in God or not, whatever a higher power is for you, it doesn't matter. It's what works for you. Find that higher power and use that higher power as your strength to get you through each and every single day. And start building your pouch. You see construction workers with their pouch. They got a tape measure, screwdrivers, hammers, nail guns. They got this, that, and that to make their job so much easier. It's the same thing in life. When you start adding certain tools in your tool pouch, you can get through almost anything. And one last thing, allow yourself to feel your feelings. Don't hold them in. Don't be ashamed, especially with us guys. Too many men are committing suicide nowadays. And it's because a lot of us have been brought up the old fashioned way, like myself, where you don't cry, you don't show your emotions. If you're depressed, feel depressed. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to be angry, be angry. The trick is don't stay there. But do not be ashamed to show your feelings. There's nothing wrong with it. God gave them to us for a reason.
That's right. Well said. Very well said, my friend. Again, more information in today's show notes. Al Richards, man, you never cease to amaze me. So glad we crossed paths. Very impactful story and hope, I think, that you offered today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
We'll talk soon, Al. Thanks so much, friends, for listening today and for downloading our episodes. Hopefully, you heard something that resonates with you and inspires you to help others. Check out all of our video interviews at youtube.com/Nate Kelly. You can also find me on all social platforms at Podcast Nate. Please share our podcast with one person in your life who may need it today. Addiction can be so isolating, but just know you are never alone. Lastly, friends, I have a favor to ask. Please rate and review the Sobriety Diaries on whatever platform you're currently listening on. It really helps the show gain new listeners and traction with the algorithm. Just click on our show profile, scroll down to rate and review. It just takes a few seconds. Hit the subscribe button while you're there so you never miss an upload. We're back with new episodes every Wednesday. Remember, everyone has a story. Yours could help save a life. Bye, friends.